I think the best thing about being a content creator is that I get an opportunity to talk to a bunch of people about One Piece and bounce ideas off of you guys and get feedback, somewhat in real time, but after I post the video, obviously. And so in this chapter, I couldn't wait to talk to you guys. So this video may not be as well produced as the previous videos have been, but I'm just really excited to talk about this chapter and really give my perspective on what I think is going on. And just off the rip, I'm not going to get too deep into Garp versus Aokiji because I think that's somewhat disrespectful when we talk about what's transpiring in the chapter and what the characters are putting on the line in this actual battle. We'll talk about that at a later date, and I will touch on some basic things about it. However, I feel like this chapter is about much more than Garp fighting Aokiji, and we're learning so much about other characters. I don't want to waste time on power scaling necessarily, even though I do think it is important. It's not the priority in this chapter, not even close in my opinion, right? We're not going to waste any more time. Let's talk about chapter 1087, Battleship Bag. Just from first glance, I had no idea what that meant. Every time I see Ace, it's like a bittersweet moment because Ace is obviously dead. But every time we get to see Ace in the story in a different variation, it's a cover art request. You never really think about training for Marines. You always envision just them on a polished field or in a polished training facility. You never really think of the scale. And the scale from punching bags to punching, I guess, ships to punching mountains. And for Garp and Aokiji, well, initially they talk about Garp, and I think that was jarring in itself. But I thought Garp was just using both of these battleship bags. It just shows the scale and how these characters grow stronger over time. But I think something important in this chapter that we gotta really drill down on is what Brand New said. The whole point of this scene is to set it up to show that no one in this fight is really as inferior. They're both very powerful characters and very powerful individuals. They said the strength of these guys was not innate. And I think that's a very important thing to distinguish. It's saying they weren't born that way. They weren't just born walking out like Odin or Big Mom or even Kaido. They were not innate strength-wise, but they grew towards the top of their class, the top of their field by insane hard work. Something that was dispelled in this chapter, as well as some people talking about the Admirals, because in Film Z, Zephyr did say that Kizaru is over-reliant on his Devil Fruit. However, even if someone is over-reliant on their main thing, does not mean they're bad at other things. Kizaru, when he was fighting Rayleigh, he was able to pull out a sword and fight Rayleigh damn near equally. In that instance, when you're at the top, yes, you're over-reliant on the thing that you're obviously good at. We all do that, but that doesn't mean that you're necessarily bad or at these other things. You're probably better than most, but you just rely on this thing. So yes, the Admirals probably rely on their Devil Fruits a bit too much, but what Devil Fruit user does not? I'm trying to think of a Devil Fruit user that doesn't rely on the Devil Fruit a lot. Like for Law, he's catapulted into the upper echelon of the One Piece characters mainly because he is a Devil Fruit master in regards to his OP ability. I recently talked about it in a short saying Law has multiple abilities within his OP no Mi. I mean, I'm not going to say he overly relies on his fruit. Everyone does, right? I would say that naturally happens over time. I see you want to work on the other things like Aokiji did. And so this is showing that the hard work that these guys put in, it's paid off, and they're at near, if not close to the top, and it dispels some of the propaganda against the Admirals that people were saying. Of course, people are going to say Aokiji's no longer an Admiral. Doesn't matter. That's his basis, right? It got me to thinking of other characters that really grew their strength and it wasn't necessarily innate. I know for Luffy, we look at him as a powerhouse now, but remember, he was being thrown into the jungle by his grandfather back in the day, and then he kind of grew from there. And he was training for years before he even set out to sea. So I want to say Luffy is innate. Luffy put into work as well. Hard work, a lot of hard work. But I really love this message, right? These heroes that were built, not created necessarily. And this message really stuck out to me. I really want to know, as far as the other Admirals, like how strong were they coming in? Because Aokiji at this point, he's punching with Garp and he doesn't even know how to use Haki, but he said he surpassed, or he's gotten everything from every other person there that he needed to get. Now, at this point, I'm wondering if he has his Devil Fruit. Is that why he's able to overpower these other guys? But then put things in perspective for me in regards to Luffy and the Straw Hats and how young they were able to learn Haki. And now for Aokiji at this point, I don't know how old he is. Okay, I just checked it. Aokiji joined the Marines at age 19. Not sure how old he is at this point where he's training with Garp. Let's say he took a year to get to this point. He learned Haki for the most part around 20 years old. So it just shows the head start that some of the Straw Hats have on some of these characters, and they're going to surpass these characters in due time. I just really love that message. Hard work versus talent, but talent and hard work, they're somewhat congruent when you get to the top because of what it takes to get there, and you being talented in a certain field, a certain area, that propels you. So I don't want to spend too much time here. Just thought that this message, the strength was not innate. Perfect. The Blackbeard Pirates, I'm not sure how I feel about them at this point, but one thing I would say is that they're very disrespectful. We saw what Vasco Shot was saying to Boa Hancock when we were on Amazon Lily. At this point, Vasco Shot is calling Garp, saying what legendary hero, and they're going out of their way to somewhat disrespect him and not give him the credit where credit is due. I'm not huge fans of the other Blackbeard Pirates. There's certain Blackbeard Pirates that resonate with me, but not resonate, but I just like their aesthetic. I like how they move. Of course, Aokiji, I like him beyond him being a Blackbeard Pirate. Not sure if I like him much as a Blackbeard Pirate because he seemed to be fitting in way too well. And then I'm starting to question my own beliefs in regards to Aokiji. What is he really fighting for? I think about what Doflamingo said. I think about what he said to Smoker. And so I get to the point where I'm looking out at Aokiji. It's really troubling for me. But for the Blackbeard Pirates, they go out of their way to be disrespectful. It's almost like if they relish the fact in being the bad guys. And they come from Impel Down, so there's not much great things to kind of pull from in regards to their history. Then people like Shiryu. When we met Shiryu was locked up because he was killing inmates and killing people. And so these are not good guys. And I think this chapter reinforces just who they actually are. And I do like the smack talking a little bit. It's just that when they're talking to Garp, and Garp being a fan favorite like he is, it kind of rubs me the wrong way. I'm kind of saying like, stop it. Like you wouldn't say that to his face when he's actually saying it to his face at that point. But maybe that's me getting maybe a bit too much into the story. I don't like it. I like when people talk smack and back it up. But in this instance, I don't know why it was bothering me. Like, what are you talking about? What legendary hero? Then after Shiryu stabbed Garp, and we'll get to that point, he was laughing at him. And also Avila Pizarro at the end when he was saying what's gonna read in the newspaper. I don't like it. Tell me what you feel about it. Maybe I'm overreacting. I am overreacting. But this chapter was more so about Garp than anything for me. I think Garp is him. And I said before, I didn't think he could beat Aokiji. And I think just out of respect for this man and everything he's accomplished and what he's willing to do for everybody around him, it doesn't matter if Aokiji can beat him or not. I do think Aokiji can beat him. But at this point, out of respect for Garp and him being the old legend that he is, anybody that goes against Garp is going to be a toss-up and is going to be a difficult match for you. So I think I was disrespectful in that regard. But this man, he's greater than what I envisioned. I think going back and rereading the chapter a few times, what he's willing to do at his age, what he's willing to do in regards to Kobe being captured. He didn't have to go, right? This is a whole process in regards to getting Kobe back. He took it on his own volition to go and save his subordinate. The future of the Marines, he viewed Kobe, even though he wasn't looking like it in this chapter. I was very disappointed in Kobe in this chapter, I'm not gonna lie. However, Kobe is still wet behind the ears. He's been on a few missions, but he's not as seasoned as some of these other guys, and it's showing here. And he's somewhat gullible where he feels like he has to save everyone. He feels like an early Spider-Man or early Superman character where it's just about the people and it doesn't matter. So he doesn't think before he does things. It's somewhat instinctive, right? Like when he jumped in front of Aokiji at Marineford, where he was literally wanted to save everyone that was still alive or holding on just by the brink of their life. And so he did the right thing. Like he's trying to save people, but you have to think a bit more, right? So I'm going off a bit on a tangent. However, I don't know, this chapter was different for me, bro. I don't know. I mentioned experience earlier, and I think this chapter showed the difference in regards to certain characters, how experience matters. For Garp, nothing is going to rattle him. It doesn't matter what it is, nothing is going to rattle him. They said the numbers he wasn't faltering, and he was looking with the same smile, even though blood is running down his eyes, that he had from the beginning when he pulled up, knowing good and well that he's not the same guy that he used to be. And I think that in itself is inspiring. You saw the guys that stayed back to fight with him, Kobe, Gruz, Meppo, and those guys are going to be the leader of the Marines, or towards the top of the Marines in due time. And this match, this battle, this brawl is going to be essential for their growth going forward. I 100% believe that. How much time has passed since this has been going on? It's hard to say. One thing I'll say though is that when Garp pulled up, he dropped his ship in the middle of the island. He destroyed a bunch of things in the middle of the island, and the citizens, they were not evacuated. Now where we are, the citizens are evacuated and the ship is no longer in the middle of the island. So they've been fighting for quite a while. I'm going to say minimum an hour. And so Garp has been doing his thing for a minute, and we got to give him his credit. He is the true hero of the Marines. I know there was some question because of what Garling was able to accomplish, or Garling's title, and of course Roger being there, but I don't think everyone ever really questioned Garp's strength. We knew he was strong, but I think more than strong physically, just what he represents in regards to the mentality of the people around him and how he lifts up the people around him, and by showing and doing. That's basically his nindo. Like for Aokiji, he saw Garp punching the battle bag or the battleship bag, and he went and started doing it. One of my favorite panels that I think may go overlooked is the progression of the sound effects. So Garp when Aokiji first starts, tell him not to use haki, and his sound effect when he hits was bam, and Aokiji was whack, showing the difference in the impact of the blows. Over time was bam and whack, then bam and thud, then bam and bam, showing that Aokiji had caught up to his mentor in that aspect. Not saying that Aokiji is on the level of prime Garp, not saying that at all. However, physically, the same training that Garp was doing, I'm not sure if it's every day, every other day, he was right there with Garp, and what Garp was able to do without haki, Aokiji was able to match that. So someone with the devil fruit prowess that Aokiji has, and having the training, the foundation that Aokiji has, there's no question, there's no wonder why he's one of the strongest characters in the story, because he had a great foundation. And when you add an overpowered devil fruit, I mean, the sky's the limit. You know, it'll be hard to overcome a character like that. I think Garp himself knows fighting Aokiji would not be an easy task, and clearly it hasn't been, right? I I said last time that the future of the Marines, how I see it, Kobe being the fleet admiral of something of the sort. And if Kobe's not the fleet admiral, it would be Bruce, and then Helmeppo will be Kobe's partner, like a Bogart to Garp. And some people disagree with that, saying that, you know, maybe Helmeppo will be an admiral himself. I just don't see it in Helmeppo. From Bruce, what I'm seeing in this chapter is that he's desperately trying to get Garp's approval. But remember, Garp called Kobe the future of the Marines, right? So Bruce is trying to say, I'm already a rear admiral. Like, am I also the future of the Marines? Garp's favorite pupil is Kobe. And so the others around him, which, you know, it's natural. They're trying to get his approval as well. Garp is the greatest that the Marines have ever seen. And so it's a relationship. It's a small quirk that I like seeing because it's a reflective of just human behavior and human nature. This is strictly a theory, somewhat headcanon. Now, I wonder how Kuzan and how he's been going about things since they've been fighting for quite a while. Has his objective been to keep Garp there as opposed to the others? Because everybody else can escape, but Garp can't, right? In Kuzan's eyes, on Kuzan's watch, Garp is probably the big fish. The others escaping probably helps Kuzan, considering I don't think he's changed much as a person. I think his mentality has changed in regards to what he thinks he has to do to accomplish the most. It's scale, right? He feels like at one point he was an admiral working against the powers that be within a specific system. Now, if you scale it, now I'm a free agent. I'm working with probably one of the more powerful pirates in the story. I can do a bit more. I'm getting more out of what I'm putting in necessarily. It's just operating at scale. And for Aokiji, it makes more sense this way, where he's accomplishing things where he has to do a bit more on the gray side, if not red, as opposed to, again, being an admiral, being on call, working against the powers that be that don't believe in the ideologies and the things that you believe in. And so at the end of the day, when you have someone like Akainu that you have to work with, that you're complete opposites down to your devil fruit, that's just not the place for you. And Garp, he doesn't have the same mentality. Obviously, he's saying you have to be in uniform for change to happen. And then even we see, again, another panel of him talking to Aokiji, saying his son to become a revolutionary. Aokiji's like, I don't know what you want me to do about it. And Garp probably looked at Aokiji as a son, but talking to Aokiji about Garp, talking to Aokiji about Luffy, Garp's mind is in the right place and he's trying to do the right things. It's just that influence is all around you. And for Aokiji, he was on the right path for a long time until he put his foot down and kind of drew a line in the sand. And it is an anomaly what happened to him versus Akainu for that specific position. There's no record of anything like that ever happening in the story. And so for Aokiji believing so strongly against Akainu's way of leadership, it shows that he was already changing. I think even the fact that letting Nico Robin walk for so long, knowing where she was, having so many opportunities to catch the Straw Hats, he was like Garp in a lot of ways. So much gray, letting people grow, seeing who people became, not cutting it off from the root, even though not knowing how it would grow. Would it develop thorns? Will it grow with flowers, right? And for Nico Robin, you can say she's grown with both, some thorns, but with flowers because of the people around her. So for Aokiji, his personality and his way of life, that most closely fits something I would probably emulate. Yes, I want to do the right thing as much as I can, but if something I'm vehemently against, I can't live with that. And then I have to leave and do things my own way at that point. But I tried it that way. Let's try it this way because we only have one life to live, right? But for me, this is all about Garp. It almost like if Aokiji's trying to force Garp to beat it out of him. It's a weird thing because he's saying you created the troublesome enemy, and Garp is like, you're excommunicated. You do not get to have talks with me. You do not get to rile yourself up with me. You're excommunicated. You are no longer somebody that's within my circle. And that punch today through that, is basically an equal exchange. I felt the emotion out of it. Not sure if this is Advanced Conquerors coming from this, but I felt the emotion. You can tell these people still care about each other. From Aokiji still calling Garp-san, right? The respect is still there. And so I'm not sure how you felt about Shiryu stabbing him. And for me, honestly, I'm not too mad at Shiryu doing that. That's like what his devil fruit is made for. This is on Kobe, right? This is on Kobe. We saw him unlock observation hockey at Marineford. He's one of the more talented individuals. Everyone is ready to prop him up. And he, I think, disappointed. Again, we did not see what he did off screen because they've been fighting for a while. Garp is not by himself, right? Garp is fighting with Kobe, Bruce, and Helmeppo, people that we feel like are competent. And so, listen, they're fighting against Aokiji, of course, but Sanwan Wolf, Avila Pizarro, and Shiryu. Shiryu is, a different beast, but Avila Pizarro and, Vasco Shot, I don't expect much from, right? But more than anything, this chapter was about Garp, right? Don't lose your composure. Justice will prevail. And this is everything he's lived by his entire career. So in this moment, even though it looks like everything is about to be eradicated, he's saying not to lose your composure, which is telling me he will be saved by Garp, not by Garp, by Suru and Sengoku. They will come and save him because, well, it's been a while, but there's also another wrinkle that could play into this where Blackbeard should be on the way as well. So I do think Sengoku and Suru show up, but I do think Blackbeard shows up as well in the next chapter. Now, those are things down the line. We'll talk about previews or predictions for the next chapter. This is just my thoughts right now. You can tell time has really passed because even Hibari has been thought out. There are definitely more intricate things to get to. Like, again, the personality of the Blackbeard pirates. They are dastardly. I do not like them, but that's kind of the point. You're not supposed to like the Blackbeard pirates. You're not supposed to like Blackbeard because they're doing it in a way that's not akin to how we're seeing it done in the story by our main characters. So Oda's doing a fantastic job by making us not like these characters. The only thing I would say now is, Kobe, what point? At what point do you elevate or get to the level that everyone expects of you? Does Garp have to die? Or rather, when will Oda show it? Even when he went to acquire Boy Hancock, it wasn't shown. Now it isn't shown. And he's developing a wealth of experience. The people around him, the people that he's been following, the people that he's in contact and communication with, there's a lot to be learned, but I'm not seeing it from that specific individual. I know it's coming. The waiting, we're becoming impatient, even though I know it's on the horizon. When does it come? Does Garp have to die? Is Garp going to die? That's the major question. But this chapter is about Garp. Garp is a much greater, I think, than I saw him as, one of the strongest of all time. But what he's willing to do for others, that is incomparable. That is incomparable as a character, as a person. And so for Garp, man, I've had my moments with Garp as a true Ace fan. And so over time, I fought with it, right? This is just One Piece, and some people look at it as, man, it's just a story. But I know, and you know, One Piece is a story that you connect with on a different level. And so some of these characters, we've seen it in time to time, maybe sometimes in a toxic way. People connect too much with some of these characters. They start to believe they are these characters. So when anything happens to these characters, they take it personally. For Garp, he's one that I had to fight with because of everything that happened to Ace, what he didn't do, what he did do. Right now, I can honestly say I have no animosity in my heart for that character. I think he's one of the best characters, if not the best character in the story. The conflict that always arises, the tribulations, the trials that are always constantly around him. Intrigued, and I can't wait to make another video talking about who he is as a person. I think people respect him because of the uniform he wears and what they hear about him. But I think the things you haven't heard about Garp are probably greater than the things you have. Garp taking on the responsibility of raising Ace is greater than him bringing in Roger necessarily, because honestly, Roger getting captured, probably the worst for the Marines because of public execution and then what he created. But the things you don't hear about Garp is great. But for Dragon, that's why I want to see their relationship. Is he gonna die? We're not sure. I would like to see him meet Luffy again and how that conversation would go. Is that something Oda wants to avoid because he's not sure how to actually convey that scene? What does Luffy say? What does Garp say? That's why I don't think he's gonna die, but he's just gonna be on the mend, maybe until the end of the story. Maybe. We'll see. Fantastic chapter. This isn't even about the fights because the fights were, all right. It's about a relationship, a bond, student, mentor, two people having the same ideologies but going about them in a different way, but now it's coming to a head. He's saying justice will prevail. What form of justice? Because from what Doflamingo said, who wins is justice. So for Garp, do you follow that same Nindo? Is that your ideology? Is that something you believe in? The fact that he's not rattled at all, my respect, man, for this. It's immense. It is immense. Shout out to Garp. GOAT. 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 Not much more I can say.